Welcome into Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. It is Friday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Celebration, baby. We're here every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the baseball season. Brendan Glasheen joined by Charlie DiSturco. We'll get to him in a bit in terms of what he's been up to lately. That guy. And then Anthony DeBundo, of course, both contributors at Action Network. Find them in the Action Network app, actionnetwork.com. They do a great job. Let's dive into the slate. 15-gamer on this Friday. Marlins Cubs kicks it all off at 2:20 Eastern. Some great series, some really intriguing series heading into the weekend. You've got the Padres and the Dodgers meeting for the first time this season. Seattle and Houston, great pitching matchup tonight. Javier and Castillo, and some others as well that we'll discuss, I'm sure. Best bet, we'll start with Charlie DiSturco. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, we're heading out to the West Coast, San Diego Padres to take down the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just think this is a good spot to sell LA after their 6-game win streak. Clayton Kershaw takes the mound. And while he's been terrific, his advanced metrics do have some concerns. A 286 xERA, his xFIP up above 3. And he has a 215 BABIP, which has been completely unsustainable and will only regress negatively for the left-hander. And he's posting his lowest barrel rate since the COVID year of 2020. So a pitcher that I'm looking to fade at the right price, and I think grabbing San Diego at home at plus money here is a great bet. Yu Darvish taking the mound for San Diego, and his ERA has been a bit inflated. You know, he pitched in that Mexico City game, gave up 3 home runs. He's a lot better than what you saw there. A sub 200 expected batting average, which is his lowest since his debut in Major League Baseball in 2016. His expected slugging is his career best right now. His barrel rate's below 7. So all the issues that we had with Yu Darvish last year, really not a factor this season. And he's extremely deep arsenal. He's throwing his sweeper a lot more. The 3 pitches of the sweeper 4-seam slider has been a great matchup for him. He's pitching extremely well. The numbers maybe not indicate so, but I think this is a good buy low, sell high spot. We've talked about San Diego as a team to kind of target as the season progresses because Tatis had that suspension and Machado and Soto were non-existent in April. Well, this is the start of the time to do it. Plus money against the Dodgers. I think they're live, and I think that they're the better team here.
Our presenting sponsor is BetMGM, plus 100, the current line right now for Padres money line against the Dodgers. These teams are separated by just a game in the standings. First meeting of the year. Should be a good weekend. It was a good weekend, these teams, when they met last couple years, so it should be really good. And see if Arizona can hang around. We get the Diamondbacks taking on the Nats this weekend, so if they can handle their stuff, those other two beat up on each other. Best bet from Anthony DeBundo. What do you got?
Yeah, first, I was just discussing this with a friend. Cubs 0.5, first time of the year. When the weather's good, the wind's blowing out at Wrigley, Friday afternoon baseball. We bet Cubs 0.5, and I especially like this, not just because of the angle of them being at home with the weather good and the wind blowing out, but the pitching matchup, I think, is a pretty solid favorability for the Cubs. The reason, Edward Cabrera, we've talked about him on this pod. We love the stuff, but we don't trust the command. He's prone to blow-ups because he walks too many hitters. That's a major danger given the conditions at Wrigley today. I think it's going to be very favorable for offense. That's why you saw the total up at 9. You don't see a ton of Marlins totals that high with the optimal wind blowing out to the left. Matt Mervis is making his debut for the Cubs today. Very excited about his bat entering this lineup. And the thing I like most about the Cubs in this matchup is that they are bottom 5 in the league in chase rate. They do not swing at pitches outside of the zone. They're a very disciplined lineup. And going up against Cabrera, who walks hitters consistently and will fall behind in counts, I think it's a very bad recipe. Compare that to Justin Steele, who I think is about as good at controlling batting average on balls in play as any pitcher in baseball. He has a little bit of that seam shifted weight going with his stuff. It plays better than maybe his strikeout minus walk is. And I think, a lefty against this Marlins lineup, which continues to be one of the 3 worst offenses in the league against lefties from a strikeout minus walk rate perspective, is not a great matchup for them either. So I'm laying the run line. I don't do it on home teams very often. You get the fewer at-bats potentially because of that, right. Only 8 at-bats. But at plus 120, I like it. Wind blowing out today. Go Cubs.
All right. And I liked I laughed when I saw your tweet yesterday that the Cubs might just mess around and win the Central. So you're a believer with this Mervis call up.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. I bet them this morning at 6-1. You can find plus 650 out there on the Cubs. I think when you look at the underlying numbers, first of all, their Pythagorean wins say that they actually should have about 20 wins by now. They've been very unlucky in close games. They've had a couple bullpen blowups that have certainly cost them. They got walked off on yesterday, but their pitching and their hitting are both in the top 10 in xWOBA. So that's allowed in hitting wise. So it's encouraging. They call up Mervis. They were getting zero production from Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini. Now Mervis is up, and he profiles as somebody who had a huge breakout last season in the minors, and is a very disciplined hitter as well. Does not chase, has a good sense of the zone. Strikeout rates were sub 20% in AAA, despite hitting for power. Walk rates above 15%. So it's very encouraging for Mervis. The bullpen's the only real hole, I think, and it's something they could address at the deadline, or something they could potentially do internally. They have Jeremiah Estrada. They just sent him down again, optioned him to AAA. He has one of the best fastballs in baseball, and bullpens tend to be a little bit wonky. So it hasn't been good so far, but it's only a 30-game sample of this bullpen. I think there's probably better days ahead for them. They were a decent bullpen last year before they traded everybody away. No reason they couldn't add a piece or two at the deadline and make a run in a wide open Central. I am not a Brewers believer whatsoever. We're going to talk about the Brewers later, but this lineup is still bottom 6 in most hitting categories, and that's not going to cut it for the full 162 now that their pitching has fallen off a little bit.
Okay, on to fading the public or not. We'll find out. So one game we identified that was striking in terms of the public side, 77% of the bets, 82% of the dollars on the Cincinnati Reds over those Chicago White Sox. My God, that game. So that was the game featured on ESPN Plus yesterday. So I had the luxury of putting that on. And I had the Twins live later in that game, and I was sweating it out. I know Zerillo was on Chicago. He was on one of those dogs yesterday. And wow, the White Sox, Colin Whitchurch said they might never lose again. But wow, they had several opportunities in extra innings and totally did not take advantage. And somehow the Twins got out of there with a 4-run win. So White Sox gonna White Sox, I guess. Are we into the Reds, despite the fact, Charlie, they are getting all the love from the people?
Yeah, I think that this is a good time to get them here. The Reds are quietly playing pretty well at home. They're 9-6, and Hunter Green's on the mound, and he's a pitcher that I've been backing since he came up in the majors last year, and he's starting to figure it all out right now. 5+ innings in 3 of his last 4 starts and 10+ strikeouts in 2 of them. His biggest issue, as we've seen consistently, has been falling behind in hitters and then either serving up a fastball or walking them. And then with ducks on the pond, just things go awry. He's kind of figuring all his stuff out. But when you look at just his advanced metrics, expected batting average around that 210 mark and expected slugging, huge decrease from last season. And he's generating a lot of whiffs. I like the chances here of Hunter Green really putting an end to this White Sox lineup that is abysmal, quite frankly. Aside from Luis Bob, as DeBundo likes to call him, and Eloy Jimenez, there's not much I love in this White Sox lineup. Obviously, Anderson is now back, but Hunter Green also has a 394 BABIP. He's getting BABIP to death, so that's going to come back and positively regress on his end. Lance Lynn, on the other hand, not really a pitcher I'm looking to buy right now. He's just not the same pitcher as the last few years. Bottom 20% in hard hit rate, and expected slugging is near 500 right now, so it's horrible. His command is just off. Nothing's changed in his arsenal. He can't locate the zone. He's getting hit extremely hard. He's having a 46.7% hard hit rate, which is 10% higher than his career worst in his career. So he's just getting tattooed. There's no difference about it. And while the Reds offense isn't anything to really gawk at, I think they're able to scratch a few here. I trust Hunter Green to continue rolling as he has the last month. And, the Reds get another win and go to 10-6 at home while the White Sox continue to lose in dramatic fashion.
Reds offense, Anthony, has been slumping here the last couple of games. They did run into San Diego on the road. Are they in a good spot here at home, coming back from the West Coast?
Yeah, it would be Reds or nothing for me. I have not bet this game. The bullpen advantage is notable here. I mean, either team has a good bullpen, but the White Sox had to use all of it the last couple of days, especially yesterday in that 12-inning thriller with Minnesota, where they should have won, but Hanser Alberto swung at a pitch that hit him. Sorry to Colin again.
Did you just call that a thriller?
It was a thriller. I was thrilled at how bad each offense was in extra innings.
How about Billy Hamilton bunting? Billy Hamilton bunting pop up with 2 outs in the ninth, I think it
Back-to-back
was.
pop-out bunts by both teams. Can I ask both? I'll put you on the spot. What was the total for that game? Pre-game?
7.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh,
it was
yeah.
2-2,
It died in
1-9
extras.
And it went over in extras. Yeah.
Classic under that falls apart because of extra innings. Keep going.
Yeah, well, they've had a couple of those with the A's the other night too. Same night before against Seattle. But yeah, here's the thing: these are the 2 worst offenses in the league by expected WOBA. So I think we kind of expected the Reds could be down there. We didn't expect the White Sox to be down there. One problem for the White Sox: they swing at bad pitches more than any offense in baseball. They're lowest or highest chase rate in baseball, lowest discipline, and that'll help Hunter Green because the biggest problem for Hunter Green is that, yes, his stuff is electric, it's dynamite, but he allows really hard contact because if you look at his heat maps, like his fastball, he's either up in the zone, which is where he needs to be, but when he sits a little lower and you can see there's like a hot spot right in the middle of home plate, he gets hit very hard. And so if you throw right down the middle to this White Sox lineup, they have plenty of sluggers. So that is the only thing that's a little scary, but bullpen advantage for the Reds today, rest advantage for the Reds, starting pitcher advantage for the Reds. It would be Reds or nothing.
Maybe it's a good time to do a home run parlay with the Reds, who are third to last in baseball.
Certainly a good ballpark for it. Yeah,
definitely a hitter friendly ballpark.
Yeah, I mean,
who do we got today? Spencer Steer,
Jake Fraley,
Jake Fraley.
Reds 21 home runs in 31 games, which is third to last in baseball. Just throwing that out there. Someone might want to do a home run parlay and maybe let us know. Let's move on to our favorite underdogs. Charlie, why are you laughing? I'm not talking. Well, maybe I am talking about you.
Because I didn't let you know. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Charlie DeSturco hit an unbelievable, 3-player home run parlay?
Yeah, it was a 3-leg same game parlay that hit by the 3rd inning. It was Lucchesi, Wentz, game 1 of the doubleheader, and I took Javi Baez, Eric Haas, and Tommy Pham, and it was a $15 wager to net 3.5K. So I was on cloud 9 for all of 15 seconds before I had to produce Green Dot Daily and then watch the next 2 days as my bets. I'm like 7-25, but as is life when you win a big bet, it just crashes.
I feel like the crashes happen too when there's a day slate. You're like, oh, perfect. It's like I'm just rolling right into the afternoon, and then it just starts to gradually crumble. And then the Red Sox and Blue Jays were the last game of the day yesterday, and they were at 6. So
yeah,
you didn't have to sweat anything out late night in baseball on Thursday. But
yeah,
I wanted to save that to the end, but I figured we'd get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked for home runs that's nonstop since that's happened. I'm not like a home run genius, like I just I bet based on matchups and total bases. And then I thought to myself, why not? Let's throw a lottery ticket down on this game 1 where I thought both pitchers stunk and have high barrel rates. And then I just I threw something against the wall and it stuck. But yeah, I know Matt Mitchell wants me to give out one, which we'll give out later.
Okay,
in the show. Yeah, I have one home run to give out, but
okay. The author of Dinger Tuesdays had enough of this, and he wants to move on.
I'm filling in for him in 2 weeks.
I'm going on vacation in a few weeks. Charlie's
perfect.
I'm taking for his job. I'm going for his job outright. I'm going to be the EPL soccer guy next.
Okay, home run play to give out before we go. So let's move on to underdogs. And Charlie, you have an angle on the Nationals today.
Yeah, why not get more ugly after the Cincinnati Reds and go with the Washington Nationals over the first 5 innings? I've been betting Josiah Gray all season long, and it's been working out for me. He's halved his barrel rate, cut down on his hard hit rate nearly 10%. It was only a matter of time before Gray really figured out in the big leagues, and I think that he's going to continue to do so. Right, his biggest issue is that he has a lack of command sometimes, and he'll walk a lot of batters, and that's a bit concerning against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who love to steal. But his expected batting average has gotten even better this season. It's almost below 200. And his expected slugging has dropped nearly 100 points. So I just love Josiah Gray, who's been able to get out of jams consistently, who's actually, commanding the zone somewhat well and limiting hard contact. And against Merrill Kelly, who quite frankly has been a disaster this season after last year was one of our favorite pitchers to back because we'd always get him at plus money. He's really struggling with his command. It's near 15% walk rate, and his expected ERA is nearly 2.5 runs higher than his actual ERA. His barrel rate still fine, but you look at his numbers and there's a lot of concerns. His expected batting average is near 270. His expected slugging is jumping up to his 2021 numbers, where he struggled a lot to just limit hard contact. And he's throwing his changeup more and his fastball less. Maybe it has to do with something with how he was in the World Baseball Classic and the quick turnaround. He's just struggled to really adjust. Fastball was his money pitch last year, and now he's shying away from it a little bit, and his velocity has decreased a couple ticks. So I don't want to get into it with the Nationals bullpen. You know, we saw them blow the lead to Chicago last night before winning on a walk-off home run. I'm just going to go with the better pitcher here, Gray over Kelly. And I think the offenses are, you know, Arizona has a slight edge, but at plus 145, I make this closer to like 120. So I'm going to take them.
Okay. DeBundo, favorite underdog for tonight's slate.
Yeah, I like Houston. Quick about Josiah Gray. He had a really, really, really bad fastball that was getting crushed repeatedly. He's throwing it less now, focusing more on the slider and the curveball. It's really worked well for him. I generally agree. They do have the roof open tonight, though, in Arizona. That's worth about a run. So I did bet the over at 8.5. If it comes back to about 9 even money, I would bet the over. Right now, sitting around 9 minus 120, I would pass. But definitely a huge difference in run environment in Arizona with the roof open versus closed. So make note of that before you bet Arizona totals. I like Houston plus 120 on the road at Seattle. Look, Luis Castillo has been dominant. The strikeout rate's up, the walk rate's down. I'm a little concerned it's a little bit fool's gold right now. Castillo has notoriously been a slow starter because his velocity doesn't quite get there until June or July. And right now, his velocity is down. He was sitting 97 last season with his fastball. He's sitting 95 now. And that's a big difference. It's a noticeable difference, and the whiff rates are actually down on the fastball. His other pitchers are doing better. So I think Castillo is a little bit of a limited pitcher. You're paying a premium here on Luis because of the improved results. But Christian Javier, pitcher that Charlie and I have bet on plenty this season, I think almost every start it feels like with Javier, somebody who has a little bit of a home run problem, but where's the power in the Seattle lineup? Because right now we've seen Julio Rodriguez's chase rate is way up. His whiff rate continues to be sitting around where it was last year. So his pitch selection is worse and his contact quality is much worse. And his regression, I don't know if he's injured or if it's, just, that sophomore slump that you see when pitchers adjust. But his, decline from this lineup, Teoscar Hernandez's strikeout rate is way up. There's a lot of red flags in this Mariners lineup. It's pretty much been Kelenic carrying them, and the rest of the team has been very mediocre. And as much as I've just shit on the Seattle lineup, Houston is actually worse. They have the 4th fewest barrels in Major League Baseball. The Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions. So that is a little bit concerning too for Houston, who does project better against lefties as well. But I think this is close to a coin flip game. Houston, their lineup still projects considerably better than Seattle's, even though they haven't hit like it thus far this season.
So no interest in the under 7. I know Zerillo's on the under 7 for today.
I would need 7.5.
Yeah, I just to like add off
I'm just going off what you said. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly see the case for it, 100%. But given how bad these offenses have been, Jose Abreu's like trying to fix a problem that they think they found in his swing.
Wow,
he might just be done. So that's definitely a hole. And then, you look at the 6 to 9 of this lineup, and it's just not that impressive. Chaz was off to a great start. He gets hurt. Bregman has not been slugging. Altuve, of course, still out. So there are holes in this lineup right now that you can exploit.
First 5 totals at 3.5, which is the lowest on the slate too.
Yeah, it's also interesting just adding on to that. Like if you don't, I'm on the Astros as well. But if you want to bet like, the under, like both pitchers, as Devondo's mentioned about Luis Castillo, that could be a paper tiger type deal with how he's successful right now this year. But Javier also has some concerns with barrel rate, always has been. So like, if you want to bet if you want to bet the under, don't bet the Astros, because I feel like both game scripts project pretty similarly, and that's why I'm on like the plus money with the Astros as opposed to the under here, because Javier is the better pitcher in this matchup, at least to me. And while both offenses might have their issues, the ball could fly. Both pitchers have some barrel rate concerns sometimes.
Hey, DeBundo,
you talking about it?
Javier's fastball has been getting hit pretty hard. I don't really understand that. The locations are maybe a little bit too middle, but that's surprising to me. I don't really expect it to last. Still grading out pretty well by stuff as well. So I still believe in Javier. I know he's had, like you said, the home run problem, but I still believe.
Yeah, so do I. He just has had the home run problem the last couple of years at times. Like that's the way that people beat him is by hitting home runs. Because other than that, it's usually limiting hard hit rate or striking out because he's been so dominant with his stuff.
4 straight games, Christian Javier has allowed a home run, 5 and 28 innings, 28 and 2/3 innings. Okay, as we normally do, couple more bets. You both just hit on Houston, so we can skip that. Houston's the pick for the underdog play for DeBundo. Charlie, you're in agreement there. You're both, well, shocker here. DeBundo's on the Phillies. You're on Zach Wheeler against Chris Sale tonight. Red Sox, Phillies. It's not just Celtics Sixers this weekend. Right across the street at Citizens Bank Ballpark, it's Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler tonight. And you like Philadelphia, Charlie.
Yeah, no, I like Philadelphia here. Chris Sale, I just do not buy that he's a changed pitcher by any means.
I miss BJ.
BJ at BJ Cunningham. Barrel rate's still 10%. The Phillies always project better against left-handed pitching than not. The Red Sox just had a taxing series with Toronto. I think the Phillies come in here and are able to get the job done. I trust Wheeler, and I'll let DeBundo kind of take rein into that a little bit more. And then just quickly, my other 2 bets. Brewers first 5. Me and DeBundo bet this right before the show. Corbin Burns should not be minus 120 over the first 5 against Sean Manaea, despite the concerns that we might have with the Brewers offense. I do think that they project a little bit higher than 120 here, especially with Corbin Burns on the mound. And save the best for last, per one of our producers, Matt Mitchell's request, I'm told to give out a home run play because of my home run play. So in honor of that, I'm going with Matt Chapman against my favorite pitcher to fade, Rich Hill. I'm also going to be on his over 1.5 total bases. Matt Chapman has absolutely crushed left-handed pitching this year. Look at his numbers. He's got a 1.460 OPS, hitting .536, 893 slugging. So crushing left-handed pitching, 4 doubles, 2 home runs, and 15 hits. Rich Hill, nearly a 7 expected ERA and a 570 expected slugging, nearly a 15% barrel rate. The list goes on and on with how I'm looking to fade Rich Hill. Probably will take George Springer as well. I think the balls fly in Toronto. So I think Chapman is more than live to get one out of the park today.
Okay. Chapman, Rich Hill, no home runs allowed last 2 starts, but he had a problem in early part of April to the mid part of April.
Going with my boy Matt Chapman, with me and DeBundo being on him since 2018, 2019. We've been on the Matt Chapman trade. So finally coming around here.
All right, Anthony, final thoughts. I know you've got a lot of what Charlie just said, and you mentioned the Cubs earlier, but anything else you'd like to offer? And no Celtics Sixers game 3 stuff.
I'm 1-0 on NBA bets given out on the baseball podcast. So I hope you guys had Sixers plus 10 on Monday night. That was sweat free. With that being said, let's talk some Chris Sale, because Chris Sale's slider is the notorious pitch that made him an ace for so long. That same slider has an 87 stuff plus this season. That is a terrible, terrible pitch. And that's a concern. His fastball is now below average. His sinker is below average. His changeup is below average. He does not have a single above average pitch. You compare that to Zach Wheeler, who had a little bit of a shaky start again similar to last season, this season, but just registered his best stuff rating and best outing of the season against Houston last weekend. I am a believer that Wheeler is quote unquote back and has figured some things out. And I think the Phillies are cheap as a result. Also, rest advantage for the Phillies. Had off yesterday. Boston had a pretty sweat-free win, but did have to use some of their bullpen as well. Mm-hmm. So given the split advantage, I like the Phils at home, laying minus 160, even though Masataka Yoshida is going to win all of the awards because he's amazing. And yeah, Sixers plus 2.5. My second bet of the season on the show.
Is it a 2.5 now?
It is.
Oh. I wonder if it gets to 3. You don't think so?
I have no idea. I don't really bet the NBA.
So might as well.
I'm
the NBA as the NBA expert of the show. I have no idea.
Part of me is happy that BJ isn't here. While I would like him to support the Red Sox, who have won 6 in a row. They have the longest win streak, tied with the Dodgers in baseball right now. He would come on here and then he'd probably take Red Sox first 5. And I go, no, don't ruin it. You know what I mean? Whereas I'd almost respect him more if he came on here today, if he was scheduled, which I think he thought he was, but he's not. But when we talk to him next week, he probably would have picked he probably would have taken Red Sox money line today. Because he'd be like, "Oh, look at the number. It's Chris, like you said, Chris Sale's slider." But I don't know how much anything's any good anymore with Chris Sale. Or you don't know what you're going to get. It's too, and the Phillies lineup, I think, is starting to perform more, as you guys have both talked about. Okay, gents, that's it.